Sometimes there are so many things you have to see. 1 second, the second.
Yeah, yeah. It's always. Yeah, yeah. It's always.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Okay, cool. Ready. You guys know I'm constantly looking out for new things that can accelerate health and help with peak performance. And yes, there are so many things in the world that we can do, but I always advocate to start with the basics. And one of the most basic things you need to survive, and if you do it well, you can even thrive, is yes, you guessed it, water. Water is a life-giving substance, everyone. And we use water to put it in our bodies every day, and it does a lot of things more than just keeping us alive. It helps us to be the best in everything we can. So today on the podcast, I got to you two special people who understood this basic need of water and took it a step ahead to hack it. Why? Just so all of us can thrive. Shay, Eden, and Zeev Zohar, welcome to the show.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you guys. Now, tell me, you guys have a backstory on why did you decide to tackle the water problem? Tell us why water out of everything else.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've been drinking water all my life, but haven't thought about it until I had my first daughter born. I don't know how many of the listeners here have children, but when you have your first child, it's always kind of a surprise. You start thinking about things you haven't thought before. And for me, it was which water should I bring to her? Again, I was drinking water, but never thought about it. It's kind of the most basic thing everybody do. We think a lot about what we eat, but we don't think enough, I think, about what we drink. And so I needed to know if I need to boil the water, to filter it, should I give bottled water or tap water? And so in the journey, I went to Shai. Shai is one of the best nutritionists that I know, very delicate. And I thought anything that she gives to her children would be good enough for mine. She already had two children.
One was almost.
One on the way. And and then she said, yeah, water is a problem. And that's where the journey started. We had to find a solution. We bought all the filters that we can find online, really, each and every one of them. We tested all the water that we had. We tested our tap water, and we found out the more we went, the deeper the rabbit hole goes. We found out that tap water has a problem usually because of the pipeline, because of the infrastructure. Water takes all there is from this infrastructure, and we tested a lot of filters, and we saw that there is a basic trade-off. Either the filter too much, meaning it takes all the toxins out, but also all the minerals, or it doesn't filter enough. So you have the minerals, but you have also some toxins in. That's where we knew that we had to find a solution.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. So the solution came from a desperate need to figure out what's going on. And I would agree with you. Like most of the water that people are drinking around the world is somehow mechanically filtered. It could be treated with chemicals, contaminated with so many pollutants. You mentioned tap water. There's a lot of studies that show different parts of the world have different tap water toxicity, and some of them even have abnormal estrogen levels. And the way the pipes are moving water in itself is actually destructuring it and not allowing it to have enough of the natural flow, which I know that you guys have for sure.
Yeah.
Now, you had you had okay, you had a problem. You had a problem that you needed to figure out the water, and then you decided to take control of that. But there were so many routes you could have taken, right? So you could make a company, or like, find something like a carbon filtration, reverse osmosis, distillation, ion softening. Could be so many different ways you could go. Why did you
Which
decide to get onto a product which vortexes water, like, which a lot of people listening to this, or a lot of people in the world, don't even know what vortexing does? But tell us, how did you go on to the vortexing part?
Okay, great. I mean, yeah, there's so many ways to go, and water is something a lot of people are talking about, but many people really don't know which is the best water, what to do with the water. And so we didn't also. We checked, again, everything we can find online, carbon filter, reverse osmosis, everything. And water has many different levels. That's part of the complexity. So you have to tackle the physical level, like the energy and the connection between the molecules, the chemical level, which toxins you have inside, which you don't, the biological level, if you have microorganisms, or and so on and so on. There's the taste, and in this kind of, we did a very long research, and we found a super interesting guy named Victor Schauberger. He's an Austrian guy, lived in the late 19th century, and he was kind of a smart voice in this domain of water. Okay, for us, he's like the Tesla of water. Okay, he is, and he talked a lot about this natural flowing movement of water and how important it is for the quality of it. So we did a simple test. We vortexed water and tasted it. We felt the difference, and so we started to do some more tests with. We gave, I think, about 100 people to taste the same type of water, just vortexed and not, and we're amazed to see that most of them, 87% of them, did.
preferred the vortex water.
Yeah. For me, it was amazing that they even felt the difference. Okay, you just take water and you swirl them. It looks something simple. When we think about wine, we understand it. Yeah, when you open an old bottle of wine, you understand why you need to let it breathe. But with water, it's not something that we are kind of used to it. The vortex movement is something that pulls oxygen back to the water and let the water breathe more fluently. So you get oxygen from the water going out and oxygen from the atmosphere going in. This kind of intrigues a chain of chemical reaction inside the water. Like CO2 also goes out, and then the pH rise, and other volatile compounds that you have in the water, like chlorine, and depends which water you're drinking, they can also evaporate out. And this is kind of in the chemical level. But also very interesting in the physical level, if you test the water after this movement, then you can find that it has higher amount of energy, which can be tested through the tension of water or the capillarity. You can the structure, the way the molecules of water kind of connect to each other. They become more smooth, and kind of restructuring the water back to its natural form. This thing can also be, and again, this is very, for us, it was stroking. Maybe for Shai it was more ordinary, but for me, it was really, really amazing to see that people can taste the difference. Okay, when you think about structured water, you always measure it with tools like the conductivity, electricity. Sometimes they do with a microscope, try to picture the clustering of the molecules.
That's for the science people, yeah.
Yeah.
But for the ordinary people, like
Ordinary
tasting the water,
it just tastes more silky. Okay, the water tastes kind of silkier.
You just want to drink from them more and more. Your body wants this water.
And this was kind of our first step, because we started drinking swirling water and feel the difference in our lives. And then for our children, by then they grew a bit more. And then all the children of the neighborhood wanted swirling water. Kind of it became something that children, and then their parents started to come more and more, want to drink this water. And then we started to think, okay, this should be something that we can commercialize. So it was not an idea to start selling water, but just really answering our own family needs, each one with his family. And then as we saw that demand is rising, because water is something that is in the center of our life, everybody needs water, then we started to think of it as a company. We brought many scientists, chemical, microbiologists, other engineers, and start to tackle it even deeper, because the vortex it's great, okay? It's aerating the water and restructuring it, and also kind of giving it the visual presence that you want water to have in your home, kind of bringing the energy of water in motion. But it's not everything, okay? After we used to put inside the carafe reverse osmosis water after we filtered it, okay? Because water interacts with everything it touches, as we said before, and there is about 80,000 different contamination in the water. The regulation only measures 100 different types. So what they don't measure, they don't find. So we needed to make sure that our water is clean. We filtered it before. And then over the years, we learned that drinking water without the essential minerals inside, it's also not so healthy, and less tasty. Okay, so you can feel this kind of empty taste of the water when it's completely filtered. And as our teacher, as our lighthouse, it was nature. In nature, you cannot find water that are
leaking with minerals.
Yeah, missing minerals, only like in icebergs or in the clouds. So human beings are meant to drink water with minerals. That was our next stage. How do we add minerals, and which mineral composition exactly should we add back to water? As you said, water is kind of the basic things that we drink. Every day we take water inside. How can we bring more value in it? How can we hack this simple action that we do every day? So we went to about 45 different springs around the world. Some of them are more famous, some of them are less, and really took water samples from there to see the exact mineral composition of each source, and then kind of did a reverse engineering of that. This process took us about 3.5 years to do the first mineral blend to add back to desalinated water. I know that in Dubai, most of the water, like in Israel, is desalinated, meaning that water are lacking essential minerals. And so this is even more needed in countries like that.
Like Dubai or Israel.
Yeah, and so our first blend were really mimicking natural sources. So we have magnesium, we have zinc, and calcium, and everything that you can find in natural sources. This is our first blend. I think it's you can find it also very, very concentrated, 2,000 times, meaning you have 8 drops to 1 liter, and you can get back to the natural composition of water. After we did that, and I think this is something that will really kind of interesting you, is if we can manage to customize the mineral composition of water, then why stop in mimicking natural sources? Then we started to make kind of more let's say, customized or functional water. So we did water for athletes with more electrolyte. This really can boost your performance during and before, during, and after exercise. We did blends for with more iron, or blends for pregnant women. Like, we can really customize the water till to the function and nutritional need of the user. And this is kind of that's how we do the full cycle. So if we want to drink, and this is what I encourage everybody to do, if we want to drink the best water in the world nowadays, it's really difficult because tap water has its problem. Bottled water is a big no-no for us because it's really it's an ecological catastrophe. Yeah. And it has microplastic inside. So when you drink bottled water, you're drinking microplastic as well. And so the way to drink really the best water is to purify them at the point of use, to let them swirl, bring back the oxygen and restructure its molecule, and add back the minerals that you want to have in your water, which is either getting spring water or adding a kind of electrolyte or whatever, depending on your own needs. So here you can see kind of
The full cycle, eh?
the restructuring.
It looks beautiful. It's like I don't want to take my eyes off. It, you know what else it could be used for? It could be used for meditation. When you want to focus one thing on a point, it's really interesting for that.
Yeah, it's
And I really like that you brought up something which not a lot of people who are in the water industry would bring in, which is the essence of minerals and how minerals have been, just a staple in any natural environment that you go to. And water is filled with these natural minerals, including trace minerals. And a lot of people listening to this might just think that minerals are just something that you might get from food, but no, you do get it from water. You can get it from the ocean. It's a different, complicated process for that. But when you're filtering out water, apart from the desalination of water, but even the modern filters that are installed in everyone's houses, one of the biggest setbacks that I have seen is that they strip water of its essential minerals. And minerals are so important, right? Like, a lot of people don't realize how important minerals are, but like, they are so necessary for everything. They're necessary for antioxidant enzymes. They help produce more ATP. They help protect DNA. Just such multifactorial things. And I like that you guys didn't really stop with the vortexing of water, and then you took it a step further, and then you went to all these springs. Like, wow, that took you 3.5 years. That's some real dedication. Did you guys have a number set in place, or did you guys just randomly go about it?
no, it was really not randomly. It was we
No, but
wanted
the
to,
45, did you have that number? Like, okay, we're going to reach like 40 or 45 or 50, or
no.
was it
No,
like, let's just go to 10 and, just give up?
It's a work in process. We won't stop. I mean, we're keep on going to more and more springs, and I think it's the more you go, the more it's intriguing. Yeah, it's really fascinating because, like good whiskey or wine, it's terroir. Yeah, it's the different type of ground where the spring emerge from that influence its qualities. And this is very interesting to see the difference between, let's say, desert oasis water or alpine, like a high
Yeah.
mountain water or a rainforest or regular forest. Each type of spring has its own characteristics, and for us, it's amazing. It really is amazing. We also have another amazing thing, and I think it's important to kind of emphasize it. Almost, I think in all, but just to make sure, almost in all springs, we found out also some type of contamination because our world is a closed ecosystem, and if and water was here from day one, yeah, it's from creation.
Yeah.
Water was here on Earth. It's the same water that is always recycling. It was in the dinosaurs and the sequoia tree, and you and me, and keep on going. And so But today, this water cycle is a bit broken because our area is contaminated in our land. And so, even in the most remote areas, we can find some kind of contamination in the water. And that's why we want not to take from nature, yeah? Trying to switch our concept, but learn from nature and mimic it at home. And that's how we kind of create abundance. Because if you go to the best spring in the world, it's a certain amount of water, of liters that you can take out of that spring
Yep.
without harming it, harming all the life that is depending on that spring.
Especially in the desert.
Yeah, especially in desert, which water is great. Like the desert water is really, really good, but it's rare. So if you learn how exactly that water is made, you can mimic that process and make abundance of it. Again, we can see it in Dubai and in Israel as one, where we thought that water will be the biggest problem of Israel in the upcoming years. But now that we managed to make our own water through technology, we can really, that stopped being a problem. So we can desalinate our own water. But when we do so, it's always important to be very, very kind of concerned about the different roles of water in our life. Because when we desalinate water, or we use it for industry, we use it for washing our cars and garden and to the toilet. This is one type of water. The water that we're drinking should be treated differently. Okay,
it's very little percent.
It's a very small percent. It's about half a percent of all the water that we use in the Western world. Okay, so 99.5 are not for drinking, and that's why the quality of this water that you can find in the pipeline is not in that highest standard that human needs for drinking.
So this is the idea. I mean, the water that we do take inside our body, let's make sure that they're totally pure, they're rich with minerals and with oxygen.
Yeah, it's an updated source of water, not just the ones that we use for everything else. And it's very important that people understand this, because most of the people that you speak to, I mean, there are some people who are extensively into health and they would understand some of these things, but maybe more than 60 to 70% of the people that I meet are still drinking from a bottled source of water, which you previously mentioned is a ecological catastrophic thing. Because I have had some numbers from you guys as well, that about 1 million plastic bottles are being disregarded every minute, and that blew me away, because you also mentioned that plastic bottles, if you took it in one day, it's like equivalent to circling the globe like about 14 times. Is that correct?
9
times. Yeah, it's
9 times.
4 billion bottles a day. Okay,
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Those numbers really like stunned me. I knew that this plastic problem was a big issue, and then more than 90% of plastic bottles haven't been recycled. It really raises a lot of concern. But secondly, also a lot of people are still drinking from those bottled water, and there isn't enough awareness. I guess some of the people who are concerned, they know a little bit more, but this is one of those things that we should be sharing with the younger generations in school, and should be a part of basic education everywhere. Because I think the more people, because at the end of the day, once you understand something is bad for us or the environment, or for just the whole ecosystem, chances are at least 50% of us won't do it. But once you don't know much about it, especially in areas which education isn't put into priority, then you see a lot of these landmines and you see a lot of these things filled with plastic.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on that, because I think it's something that moves us really, really. I mean, like we're living by the sea, and we can see the piles of plastic bottles just piling up. And I want to say that when you look at the numbers, okay, 1.4 billion bottles a day, and combine that it takes about 500 years for one bottle to decompose. Okay, 500 years it stays in our ecosystem. That means that all bottles that ever been made are still here. Okay, so, and even if you recycle it, they don't take one bottle and recycle it to another bottle. Okay, that would be a full recycle. They downcycle it, meaning the bottle becomes something kind of more cheaper plastic, and then it goes to the ecosystem. So there is no real solution for that, and this is something, at least for our children, that must end, because this is something that they would need to deal with it in the future. I understand all the people that don't that still drink bottled water. I'm not angry on them because I don't think that they have a better solution. Like
Yeah.
the most important thing, like everybody needs healthy water, and it's crazy that it becomes difficult to get hold of healthy water. Yeah, was something that as children we kind of took for granted. Water was free. It was free, and you took from the tap. You drank free water. And nowadays it's no longer like that. Water is something that you need to pay, and the bad thing is that usually people consume single-use plastic while drinking this essential need. So this is something that must stop. We must find a better solution everywhere to drink healthy water. And that's why our children is kind of our compass, because if we think about their world, I mean, they would need to deal with it, and to take the best potential out of their life, they have to have good water. Yeah, when you water a plant, you like people think about it. The plant needs to have these types of mineral or not that, and if they are lacking the right ingredients, the plant doesn't grow well. And it's the same with the children, yeah, or with ourselves. If we don't have the right ingredients, then we cannot grow well. And for the minerals, it's in these days it's also even more important, as the first thing that gets hurt is our immune system. Okay, like the different types of minerals that we have in water and not in food really affect the immune system, like magnesium and zinc. So if we drink desalinated water or water that are low in minerals, it's not something that you can take only in your food. You cannot add, say, okay, I'm not getting magnesium out of my water. Let's eat more vegetables.
Magnesium rich foods, but also magnesium is one of those things that I think about 80% of the world is deficient in, and it could be because of so many things, but also our food produce at this point, because of various irrigation practices and various industrial practices, it has been stripped off from a lot of nutrients and minerals and micronutrients. So anyone who is listening to this and you think that you can get all of your nutrients from food, I mean, that could have been possible about 100 years ago, but at this point, with all that we're doing to this planet, it's not that possible.
I would
So,
say even 30 years ago. But
yeah.
today you have about a third of the nutrient that used to be in vegetables and fruits. And that's why I think instead of taking pills, because also kind of the act of taking pills for a healthy person is kind of not something not so natural.
Mhm.
Remember it, swallow it like taking food additives. But if you put it in your kind of routine, in your hydration routine, and have your water, making sure that your water has all the nutrients that humans used to have and are need to have for growing right, and even better if you make some blood test and know exactly which nutrients you need or which minerals are you lacking, you can have this personalized preventive medicine instead of waiting for this deficiency of minerals kind of
To show up later in life, and then it's too late already.
Yeah, then it's just more difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit more suffering and a bit more difficult. But if you do it in advance, if you kind of keep your body in the right balance, then you can really prevent some illness. And I think
Mhm.
for athletes which knows their body well, which kind of act with their body a lot, it's even more. You can feel it. Okay, if you do a long exercise, extensive exercise, and you have the nutrients your body need, then you feel fresh and you can keep on going and you
Mhm.
can really see the results. That's again why I see electrolytes so much, because when you sweat, you lose water, but you lose also the electrolyte, the salts that's in the water. And when you get the salt out, then the pH level of the blood of the muscle drops. So you get these cramps. Yeah, they get
Yep.
like, and your performance goes down. If you take electrolytes back in the water that you're drinking, like much higher concentration of salt as the sweat that you're losing, then you can keep the level of minerals.
Performance.
Yeah,
And even
performance.
your performance, I agree completely that for me as well, I use liquid minerals, full spectrum liquid minerals every day. And the days that I don't use them, and if I had a hard run to do, or I'm in the heat a lot, I really feel the difference. And it's one of those things that a lot of people don't take under consideration. But if you're listening to this, please make sure that you do some research on this, or talk to your health practitioner or someone. Just understand right now, even going on the web and learning about minerals is quite easy. And this again brings me to this idea that a lot of people would consider water to just be one of those commodities that we just, it's there. But there are so many characteristics, like you mentioned, about water, which research has been sharing light on in the past few years. I mean, there was this doctor in Japan, I think his name was Masaru Emoto, who
Yeah.
showed that water can also have emotional structures. When you expose water to some kind of a negative or positive emotion, the crystals in the water by itself change. You mentioned before Victor Schomburger, who's also, his work has also been very revolutionizing in terms of energy and how to get more energy out of these different shapes. The Schomburger funnel has been famous, and a lot of alternative health practitioners have been using it for a very long time. But when you first started vortexing the water, and just so everyone can see, I've been running my own experiments. I was sharing with these guys offline, but they have a fancy device, and me, I was just using, I think you guys can see it, to create a vortex, which is just moving the energy in a certain direction. And basically, this is something that happens all the time in nature. So if you go into the water, like on top, it'll be not flat but moving, but inside, these kind of movements are really happening. So it's really interesting. And so when you first started this journey, what were you using to vortex it? Because now you have, you could be someone like me who'd probably swing this bottle, or someone
Wow.
might have a blender, or someone might have a NutriBullet or something like that, which also arguably, when someone is looking at it and doesn't have much information, shows some kind of a vortex. So does the vortex have to be very specific to something? Can you use a blender? Can you use a spoon and mix water to make a vortex? What works?
Yeah, you take us kind of a long way back, but we vortexed water in so many different ways. You won't imagine. It was like night and days of looking at water in motion.
Yeah.
Also, for us, it was kind of always the movement was from nature to like technology. So we've been a lot in different springs and rivers and waterfalls, and kind of diving inside and looking at how exactly the swirling motion in nature goes, and what's the different characteristics of the water, let's say near the waterfall or on the other edge. And like, so it's really, really interesting. Again, so I would try to answer your questions kind of by order. So water in motion is good any way that you do it. Doesn't matter. Okay, so it's better to have water in motion than standing water. You can see it, easily in nature, but you can also test it and see. Let's say the World Health Organization actions in kind of, if there is a disaster and you're lacking of water, then one of the treatment that they recommend is just shaking the water for about 15 minutes, really strong, which is kind of aerating the water. You can do it with a spoon, or you could do it like you did for about 5 to 10 minutes. It's also gives the same kind of effect. We try to do it kind of in the simplest, with less effort as possible for people to do it, because trying to do it is for 50.
That's a workout by itself, I would say. A lot of people won't be motivated to do that.
Yeah, no, I think it makes your arm strong, but it's
then you have one part of your arm just big, and then the others so small.
But yeah, I mean, this is in nature. Even a water drop from rain, like falling on the window, you see that it doesn't fall straight. It falls like this. That's because the water drop itself is vortexing inside. Okay, so in nature, water always moves in a spiraling motion. And every river goes like this because the water is vortexing. So and that's what we want to mimic. Only in man-made water lines, water is forced to move in straight lines. And there are many experiments showing the problem of that. So yes, letting your water move like wine, okay? Just even swirling a bit in the cup would be better than nothing. The best way, or to get kind of 100% saturation of oxygen, it takes about, in a vortex like we have, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. If you do it by hand, it's more than about 15 minutes. But this is one thing. About the size of the vortex, there is kind of this equilibrium between the noise, the kind of the force that you're spinning the water, and the aeration and the restructure. In our device, what we did is we put a load sensor at the bottom of the device. So when you put the carafe on it, it really measures the amount of water inside the carafe and change the speed of the.
Oh wow, that's smart.
Because we want to have a smaller vortex when you have less water, not something that is too aggressive, let's say. You can see the triple kind of, there's 3 lines when a vortex is really
high quality.
Yeah, you can see these 3 kind of lines on it.
I don't know if you can see it now.
Yeah.
Just it's not that clear, but I'm sure
yeah,
you can.
moving, right? But it's there's a lot of literature on it. It's really small, different
Interesting
nuance. But yeah, I mean, and the impeller is a thing inside the carafe that makes the water spin. Is it's a difference between impeller and propeller. Let's say in airplanes you have a propeller that takes swirling motion, but outside. Impeller does implosion. It's kind of like a wave that swirls inside. And we mimic that from a very, very interesting place, kind of object found in the pyramids, in the Egyptian pyramid, an object that is more than 4,000 years old. It's called the Disk of Sabu. Nobody really knows what it's.
I definitely don't know, so I would love for you to give me an idea of what it is.
Okay, I mean, like, I encourage you
To see
to
it.
see an image because
Uh,
it's incredible. Okay, it's something I don't think that they know how they did it because it's made out of a special stone, but it's very, very thin,
uh-huh.
and we mimicked that shape in order to do this impeller. And the good thing about it is it's very kind of a regular impeller should have been much higher to
Hmm.
swirl this amount of water. But we managed to get really, really thin, so it doesn't.
You almost don't
You
see
almost
it.
don't see
It's
it. Yeah.
Are
So,
is that shape by any chance influenced by any of these biogeometrical shapes or bioenergetical shapes? Because I know around the pyramids and a lot of these ancient places where you have a subtle energy field, there are many shapes that have been found, and when you replicate that shape onto, let's say, water or onto a crystal or keep it in your house, then the frequencies around that area start to change as well.
yeah,
So have you
but
looked into that? Is it something similar to that?
it's nothing. I mean, yes, but it's hard to. I mean, for us at least, to measure this. So I don't want to kind
Yeah.
of go out with
Mhm.
statement, but we did try. I don't know. I think about almost 200 different
too
types
many.
of
Too
impellers.
many.
Okay, but to get it to exact the best vortex.
Yeah, but when
Mhm.
we saw this shape for the first time, and we knew that something very special about this shape, and we must try.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and I think this is the beauty of it, kind of the connection between the past or ancient knowledge
Mhm.
and technology, because we saw this shape, this object, disk of Sabu, for anyone that wants to see it, 4,000 years ago. And then in 24 hours, was already in a 3D printer, kind of the first prototype going out. So you can kind of really the new technology and old wisdom combined. And
I always believe that one of the best ways to kind of either be healthy or just go after most of the things in life is when you combine ancestral wisdom with some aspect or belief of the modern science, and you
yeah,
just skip through all of those years like really fast. And this has been, I mean, especially in a lot of like health and wellness trends in the biohacking world, this has been a constant thing where there has been information that has been passed on from, let's say, the ancestral world, and now people are just using that information and trying to make it more convenient, and getting these devices which can do a multiple around area of things. Like, for example, I would say, like, for me, I have a red light and infrared light panel. Now everyone knows that going decent amount of exposure to the sun can be very good for, it could be very good for your hormones, it could be very good for your stress levels, your muscles, your blood flow, everything.
Mhm.
And then if you stay out for a very long time, you might get burned. So that was like the ancestral concept. Now people have come up with these devices which can shoot and mimic near infrared and red light spectrum that comes from the sun, which is most beneficial when it comes to athlete sports engagement, when it comes to recovery, collagen synthesis, things like that. And they've just put it for, because now 95% of the time that we spend are indoors. So we've taken a concept that the elders said, going outside, being in the sun, especially in the times um, when the sun rises and the sun sets, because that is the time where this highest in red and near infrared light is really good for us. And then we replicate that thing, make it into a light box, and shift it into our houses. And now for me, I'm lucky enough that I can go out in sunlight all the time throughout the year, because we're in the desert environment. But I could imagine there are countries which don't see sunlight for months,
yes,
and to have something like this just at their disposal, where they aren't able to go out, maybe it's too cold, maybe it's too dark, maybe it's just not possible, maybe they're shift workers. So I really like this idea that we can take a concept from the past and then convert it and make it more easier to use in our modern day life. Now,
Exactly.
have you
Yes.
guys heard of? So we, when I was growing up in school, I learned that water has three states: solid, liquid, or gas. But recently, about a few years ago, I checked out the work from a doctor. His name is Dr. Gerald Pollack, and
Yeah.
he talks about exclusion zone water, which is the fourth phase of water. And right now, there's been a lot of research going on. Have you guys familiar with his work?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. It's the water domain is a it's really really interesting. I mean, the fourth phase of water, it's really similar to what you said. How the infrared influence the water, the
Hmm.
blood stream, because blood is actually mostly water, and
Hmm.
the stream of blood is influenced by the sun. It's connected to what you said now about the easy water because
Yep.
it's and I think again everybody that is living and want to live long and healthy and kind of should take water really seriously. Okay,
Hmm.
our body is mostly made out of water. Its reaction with the minerals, with the sun, with our movement, with our conscious is tied up. So we really, really want to kind of give ourselves the best water we can, and learn more about the water that we're drinking and we're intaking. And I think
Hmm.
the work of Gerard, Dr. Gerard, it's amazing. Okay, it's intriguing. It gives us another depth and kind of a new understanding about how special this element is. It
Hmm.
really does not react as other elements in the world. It has 72 different anomalies. Okay, 72 different things that all liquid in the world acts in one way, and water acts in a different way.
Hmm.
So this is just one of them. Yeah, you said all elements in the world have three phases. Water supposedly have four phases. All gas, let's say, in the world, they spread. If you put a bottle of perfume in the middle of the room, it will
Hmm.
the gas. Huh? But you can see over the sea, the water evaporates, but the clouds kind of
Water
condense.
is like
Okay,
Yeah.
they come to each other. This is and it's just one example. Yeah, everybody knows that cold water floats.
Yeah.
There's many different aspects where water acts differently, and each single one of them uh, enables life. Okay, if it wasn't like that, then life as we know it could not exist, and that's why I think it's really we can talk hours about it, but
Yeah.
everybody that is curious about improving his life, water is a very good, very good place to start.
Hmm. And thank you for saying that, because if any one of you who are listening and you think drinking water is just a hassle and you'd rather go drink something else than water, after this conversation, I think you guys should change your mind, because water is, we're still trying to understand all of its potential. It's like Zohar mentioned, it's life-giving, it's essential to life, it it's regenerating, it helps maintain, regenerate our cells, it helps, like we mentioned, produce these enzymes which are critical to digestion of all the things that you eat, protein, whether you're in the protein, fat, or carb diet, whatever. It's all of those things require water. You need water to flush out toxins, lubricate joints. Water is really important. Please have more water.
Okay,
Now,
yeah,
back to your product.
85% of our brain, yeah, most of
Yeah,
it, it's water. So I mean, like every kind of your thoughts are transmitted through that.
I think it's so important, because it's like it also acts like a shock absorber for many of our organs, especially like you mentioned, the brain. And when you have enough water running, and if you have the right type of water running, which has some kind of a structuring property or microclusters or just this life energy water, living water, let's say, then the cell to cell communication that also happens between all the trillions of cells in your body increase. And then if you want to take it a step further, add some more minerals, have that electricity running in much faster, and you'll see things in life become much easier, because now you're using less energy in your body and you're stressing your body out less for making those basic decisions, basic thought patterns, and things like that. Now, if someone wants to check your product out, what's the best way? What's your website?
The website is mayuwater.com.
Uh-huh.
We ship internationally, and yeah, I mean, people bought this product in 75 different countries around the world. We just started selling at the end of May last year, so we kind of 1 year in, but already tens of thousands of people bought it, and the feedback is amazing. I mean, for us, it was really just the start of our first product to be launched. We have a bunch of new and exciting product in the backlog.
Oh, keep me posted about all of that. I would love to know.
Yeah. It's really hectic here, but this is the first product, and already we get really great feedback. You can check it out also on the website. People, because again, water is so basic that it's overlooked, and suddenly, just because of the visual effect of it, kind of the most artificial, the most kind of simple thing, the visual effect, how that even influence the perception of water. So instead of being something that you kind of put aside or just drink if you're thirsty, it's something that you put on the middle of the table, and then guest starts to talk about water, and the whole conversation starts to be about that, or the children kind of being more curious about what is it, because water in motion, kind of like fire, it's something you can stare at for a long time, and it has this effect on you. And so many people say that just because of the swirl, they drink more water, and their children drink more water, and then they starting going for us, starting going into this path of being more aware of it. And this is kind of a positive feedback. So you drink more water, and you like it more, and then you think about it more, and then
You feel better.
you feel better, and then you kind of tell more friends, and you have more conversation, and then you learn more about water,
And then you
through this,
teach more about water, and then we have a better society.
exactly, because that's what connects all life, yeah, not only on animals, all life on Earth is possible due to this one magical element, yeah. This is what makes our blue planet so special in the whole universe. All the other planets has light, have Earth, have gas, but water is something that makes this planet so special, and it gives all the diversity of life. And we are, as human beings, have the responsibility to take good care of it. This is what gives us life. We should kind of um, be thankful, like, in gratitude, and keep that. But we're not doing that correctly now. And the first step is just hiring the consciousness to water, because I believe in humankind, yeah, in the society. It's just that sometimes we overlook things. We don't pay attention, and then we can, by mistake, make a harmful decision or harmful actions. And this is what's happening nowadays with water. We're really destroying our own water sources and our own life-giving element. And now I think the shift is starting to happen. So we can see it with the young generation. They know, okay, they know the importance of water, and they kind of, their emotional and mental connection is right there. It's just more everybody. Okay, we need to be more conscious about it, and kind of bring water to the front our experience of our table, and not only think about again, as we said, the food that we eat or the how beautiful the rest of the house is, but also the water is kind of in the middle of
And
it.
thank you so much for putting in the work, putting in the thought, putting in the effort, and making sure that whatever benefits you were getting, you are sharing with the world. I think this brings it back to the full circle of life that you get something and then you put it out in the world and then it comes back around all the time. So thank you for creating that circle to life and to circle to that water. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Honestly, this conversation was phenomenal. I think this will turn a lot of heads. You guys might get some messages on your Instagram about water, so um, please be aware of that. And for all of you guys who's listening, like I mentioned, hacking your water is good, and it's a good step to hacking your life as well. So check out the website, check out the product. I'm convinced it's really great. And if you guys have any questions, you guys can get in touch with these guys directly.
Yes.
And guys, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you for all the work that you've done. And it was an amazing time talking to you.
Great as well. Always a pleasure, and keep the good work and
Thank you.
motivate people to live healthier and better life.
With good water, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. And this is me, CJ, your host, signing out from the Shift with CJ podcast. Everyone, have an energetic day, a week, a month, a lifetime ahead of you, and keep hydrated.